I believe progression is the key to happiness, right? It's that expansion of the universe and ultimate evolution. And when you equate it to skateboarding, you learn to ollie, you learn to kickflip, you learn to grind, you learn to kickflip to grind, right? Like you learn to kickflip the backside Smith, you learn to kickflip the backside Smith, the kickflip out, right? Like it's these levels, and you can only evolve and progress and become elite if you understand and learn the foundational steps along the way to put all of what you could consider experience together to do something really incredible. And I think a lot of people don't understand when it comes to entrepreneurialism, there's sort of these key elements that you have to understand from a foundational perspective in order to find success, which is ultimately creating a brand, understanding how to operationalize it, and understanding the financial implications of how you do both those things, right? I think so many different times in the world of entrepreneurialism, especially this day and age, it's idea-driven, right? As opposed to the battles won or lost and how it's operationalized, and then ultimately the unit economics behind the idea, right? I think that's one of the biggest things that's overlooked in the space, especially this day and age of so many people having an idea that they think can be a successful business and wrapping some sort of service or need or disruption around that idea without clearly understanding how to evolve that into an operationalized business that makes money. It's a huge gap. And I read a book at the beginning of this whole process called Start at the End, right? And it was the idea of you must decide ahead of time what your intent is for this business that you're going to build. Do you want it to be a $5 million business with 50% gross margin that you take home $1 million a year from, and it does $3 million in sales, $5 million in sales? Like, do you want to build it and sell it? Is it your passion to run forever? Like every business that I am invested in right now, every single one of the CEOs and founders all have a clear path and end in mind. I demand it, or else I don't have any interest, right? And I think I applied that same sort of mentality after discovering it in the business world of like, well, why would you not look at your life like that and then build your life backwards? And then it just opened up this insane level of deep clarity, because then you start thinking about time and energy and, okay, how do you systematize your life to stay balanced and what I like to call just living in the energy, right? And because the reality of it is there are so many different things in life that suck the soul right out of you, and you have to learn to basically build a life with very few of those, and so few even when you get hit by one every now and then that it just simply doesn't stay, because there's so few things taking energy but giving you energy, because at the end it's energy, and for so many people it's different. Unfortunately for me, I want to live in a 20,000 square foot house and that has endless views and is super modern and is $750 a square foot to build, and like some incredible lot, and have 5 children and live a fully balanced, amazing life and fly private everywhere and be able to build companies nonstop for the rest of my life. Like, my needs as an individual from a material side, I didn't try to deny, right? I didn't build with the intent of, oh, let me get to this level and then I'll change my life plan. Like it was build a life plan from both material, energy, and where you would like to spend your time, and then now look at opportunity and chase down everything you do to fill that thing in, and it's the depth of clarity is the greatest form of peace and happiness, because you begin to now optimize your clear goal.
And when you say clarity, do you mean clarity of what I want, clarity of the path? What's the clarity?
I would say both. Not only of what you want, but the path. And then as you begin to optimize it, it becomes so much more believable. right? And as you know, there's no part of like, on my dream board, it's my company's logo and then all the companies I'm starting with acquisition, liquidity, like all the different things. Then it's actual renderings of the house that I want to build. It's like every month I look at my entire net worth on a net worth and a cash basis versus every single holding and how much the ROI is at this point, and my total expenses versus all of that, fully connected, then connected to those expenses to then what my tax deferred dividend is with a fully blended tax liability. Just gives you clarity. You know, there's just no aspects. You make no moves in life. There's not one thing that I don't do that's not serving sort of the purpose of my progression towards that. You know, I was beginning to focus and skate a ton, and I was skating in contest, right? So I sought out a hypnotherapist that had worked with Phil Mickelson to win a major in pro golf, right? And so the idea was that I was just going to go in there to help make me more consistent under pressure, right, based off of that. But he had written a book called Hyper Success, the great Dr. George Pratt, and he was like, look, can we test first if you believe, like, subconsciously that you're meant to have great success? And I was like, oh, of course, yeah, let's get to the root of this.
And what is your belief about belief? Is it important? Is it a starting point?
It is the only thing that matters. It is literally the only thing that matters. Because your experience, how you build something, what you learn, whatever it is, anything that you achieve, it is literally only based off of how much you believe it's going to happen. Goals and all this stuff, all it is breaking it down into micro actions for you to understand it and believe it, right? And I think, you know, there's two levels of it, right? It's why I love, from a business side, having tactical revenue models that show you step by step, we can grow this many units by this many months and this many doors over this much time. That's unbelievable to execute. That's why goal setting in a specific way means so much, right? But at a 30,000 foot level, you know, from a mentality standpoint, that unwavering self-belief is what I look for in people I partner with, because that's allows you to micro-fail and take big losses and take them as lessons and just move and chase down and constantly be doing micro-pivoting to achieve your bigger vision or your big goal, right? Because at the end of the day, it's only people that lose belief that quit. And belief gives you so much energy. And again, why when you begin to tie all these things together, especially from goals and planning aspect, it's easy to weather storms when you understand, okay, I've got to move around to get to the next pillar of this goal, rather than thinking like, none of this is going to work type of mentality, you know. But it is the hardest thing to teach, right? I think it only comes with, I had so much success so early on, and all of my big risks that when they didn't work out, other big risks worked out behind it. There was this layering behind it that created such a deep self-belief that you have incredible patience, right? You have a deep understanding of who you are personally and what your bigger goal is and what you're setting out to achieve that you may not be able to articulate or make others fully understand, right? And I think it is what I seek the most in everybody that I do business with, right? That at least one person whose mind and eyes and soul is behind this idea that has that deep, unwavering belief, because that's what it takes to truly find success. You know? It starts with being passionately compelled, right? Where your fire comes from the desire that you have to realize the passion. You're more compelled to execute it. You're not proving someone wrong or looking for some sort of material aspect of it. It's really more who you are as an individual. I think you have to know what you're great at and know what your not great at in order to assess and put the right people to help you achieve anything that you want to achieve on any level, right? It's okay to be very self-aware at how good you are at something, but it's as long as, you know, the great super driven people tend to believe they can be great, they would be great at everything if they just spent the time learning it or knowing it, right? And I think it's the self-awareness idea of like, you know what you're really great at, and you have the ability to find people like you in identifying to fill the gaps that you don't have, you know?
How do people get self-aware like that though?
I think it's a certain type of person that can even get there, right? Like if you're not someone that's trying to evolve and grow and have sort of that idea of wanting to progress and become a better version of yourself and beginning to like self-analyze in a positive way, I don't know if you can. I think if you're profoundly grounded, you don't like float away with the highs and you don't get broken by the lows, you know, and I think you understand that it's all part of the process, and it allows you to be what I like to just call a good person. You know, at the end of the day, you just want like good people to do business with, and when you win and do stuff and meet, you just want good people, you know, and I think that's kind of what that core value for me on what it was, on why, you know, at the time when I was really dissecting, like, let me understand the individuals, who I am and then who I want to partner with. People don't talk often enough about when creating a business, there are thousands of layers, man. Thousands of layers that on a daily basis you are making all these micro decisions and choices that a lot of times have to be generated off a gut and feeling by the direction of it kind of being off to you, right? And there isn't as simple as you can make a perfect plan, but you still have to be relentlessly evolving inside that entire thing, and I think someone that constantly is looking at how to optimize stuff has that sort of mentality. And the final one to me is like relentlessly consistent, right? It is like this is who you are and how you are. Consistency is the only pathway to greatness, and ultimately it's the only pathway to trust. You know, when you're doing stuff with other individuals and other human beings and people, like, you build trust through the dependence of how consistent you are and a human being on all levels, right? So habits are different for different people depending on the stage and depending on what you do. But I'm big on systems. I just think like if you don't have deep structure and systems and you create some sort of quantifiable accountability for what you want to evolve into a habit.
So are you saying you would create a metric for a habit itself?
Depending on what it is, right? Like when it's sleep structure and getting up at 5 and getting in the sauna, having connected to that, having a diet that includes your shake and your meals and every last thing that you would do that optimizes you and makes you the best person, it's tracking all of that. Has something for you to answer to, but then ultimately helps turn all this stuff into things you don't have to think about anymore. You know, and even for me, like rather than like hope that I find balance, I have deeply structured balance, you know, in the sense of how I run my days and how I run meetings and time around that, how I schedule the time and systematize time with both my wife and children and free thinking and all of these different aspects of what I need, and then I live free inside that structure, right? And to me, the less you have to think about, the better things you can turn to habit, right? And habits just aren't like, oh, I want to start doing this, how do I do it? Like it has to be like done for a while, fail, done for a while, then like it has to be in literally, you know, that's why I love the book, The One Thing, is like, if you can identify just one thing at a time that you want to rip through and do it so much that you just don't have to think about it again. And I think someone that's naturally optimizing in life and getting better and better, you end up turning all this stuff that you had to force into habit, that's just now a part of how you live. You know, I think even, you know, for 2 years I would get up and every day I would rate how motivated I was, 0 to 10. And where it became so profoundly effective for me is what I realized is any time I was under a 5, I would look at the world half empty, right? So in those like mindsets, you pick apart every decision, you just hate you just literally like everything annoys you, right? And anything above that, like you could take with a grain of salt regardless of what happens. And by just doing that exercise, it made me be able to identify the things that were sucking the energy out of me and driving me below, and I was able to slowly evolve those out of my life to where eventually I just don't ever wake up under a 5. I just don't, right?
Because of the way you've constructed your life.
Way I've constructed my existence, right? All the way down to how I live and everything, and that sort of clarity that I spoke about and understanding was a major part of that, right? That led to understanding and identifying like all these things that took energy and mind share from me that brought me down there. And again, it was the process of self-evaluating and learning and developing that life plan and business plan, all that stuff in the same sort of timing and framework added to this entire collective life existence, if you will, that's built around what you get energy from.